Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're reviewing part 1 of Mark of the Rani, the last Colin Baker story, television story, that I haven't seen yet. And I'm taking a break from my watch through of the Web Planet, because I have been watching the Web Planet for the first time, and I'm about halfway through it, and I needed a break from it because it's the Web Planet. So I decided to watch Mark and the Rani because I had been wanting to watch it and get to it, so I could kind of round out my Colin Baker stories and round out season 22. So I could start on ranking reviews for it and stuff. And I have to say, I am loving Mark of the Rani so far. It is so good. Just from part 1, or going by part 1, it's easily my favorite of the Pip and Jane Baker stories. And I'm having a ball. First off, right at the beginning, I love the incidental music. Overall in this story, at least the first part of the story, I love the incidental music. It's great. That incidental music playing right at the beginning of the story with the opening is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. This whole season's had some great incidental music, but this story really, it just caught my ear, so to speak. I was really enjoying it. I also like the incidental music for the cliffhanger. That cliffhanger, it's just action pounding. It gets your heart pumping. I really liked it. It really emphasized the danger the doctor was in. I really got to give my hats off for the incidental music because it's so good. It's as good in this story as it is bad in Battlefield. I'll put it that way. I like the location work. It looks really good. Something about the director for this story, Sarah, I believe her name is Sarah. I love a lot of the choices she makes. A lot of the camera angles and the way they do the camera work for the location shot is great, the location shoot. I really enjoy that. I love the town, the walking around, when the doctor helps the guy who gets attacked by the people when they break his machine, when he has the horses. Everything with the location work looks really good. I really like on this Blu-ray restoration how the colors just pop. This is 80s Doctor Who. It should pop. And you can always look at Colin and you see just how, like, I don't know if I want to use the word saturated, but the colors really, for his outfit, really pop off the screen in a positive way. It just looks very colorful, very, bright's not the word, but the colors are very vibrant. That's a good way to put it, and I like that. They really pop off the screen. I enjoy that. I'm surprised they didn't make a bigger deal out of the Master coming back. Like, I didn't know, when I first saw the Scarecrow, I was just like, okay, that Scarecrow's got to move. Which is not the first time I've seen this in Doctor Who, of course. You know, I've seen the Human Nature two-parter, and I've read, the Scarecrow novel by Tom Baker that's name is escaping me at the moment. Scratchman. I've read Scratchman, which also has that in it. And I didn't realize who it was, but then there's a point where we see the Scarecrow moving, and he kind of does that laugh, which is very obviously Anthony Ainley's Master laugh. Now, I already knew Anthony Ainley was in the story. I mean, he's on the disc art, so I knew he was in it. I've known he was in it for a while. So that wasn't a surprise to me. But even if I hadn't known, I would have recognized his laugh. That little chuckle he does is very distinctive, so I tend to recognize it pretty easily. And, of course, the next time we see him, he's kind of shaking the straw off his hands in the background, you know, kind of eyeing the Rani going into the building. I'm surprised they didn't make that a bigger reveal, because there's so many episodes where it's revealed to be the Master where it's kind of unnecessary. Like, I haven't seen King's Demons, but I know he's disguised as someone else, and then it's revealed to be him, even though it doesn't make any sense for him to have been disguised, is what I've been told. But I also know the same reveal for Time Flight when it's actually me. And there's no reason for him to be disguised other than for him to look at the audience and go, ha ha ha, Doctor, you know. It's unnecessary. But this was a moment where you could have had him disguised and revealed him, and it would have been, oh my God, he's still alive moment. But they don't do that. It's very low-key when considering the last time we saw the Master, he was in Planet of Fire, where it looked like he burned to death. Like he was gone. So you figure they'd make more of a fanfare of it, but they don't. I like him in this one. Anthony Ainley seems like he's being his more serious Master, kind of like in Survival. Less mustache twirling like he's, I think, made to do in some stories. Now, I realized who the Rani was fairly quick. I didn't know at first because I didn't know she was disguised as an old woman. But there is that shot early on when the old woman hands the little boy something and the boy runs off and she turns around and looks right at the camera before she goes off. And I recognized Katie Manning, even though she has that old person makeup on. I recognized, not Katie Manning, Kate O'Mara. I recognized Kate O'Mara because, I've seen her in Time in the Rani. And I was like, okay, so this is the Rani. Now, I wasn't sure at first if she was only disguised as an old person or if she was actually old and maybe her whole plan was to rejuvenate her looks, so restore her youth for whatever reason. Even though they have regeneration, I thought maybe that was her plan, was restoring her youth. So I wasn't sure. It wasn't until later in the episode when she pulls off the mask. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Even though she never puts it back on. When she lets the next group in, she just pulls up her shawl. But I very much am enjoying the story for the most part. Colin's acting is a little more subdued. He has a couple of those moments when he's talking to Perry where he's bad, where he does that kind of over the top, like he does to Perry sometimes. That happens a couple times. But other than that, he's a little more not over the top, not theatrical hammy like he tends to get. He's a little more subdued in this, which I like. Perry in this story. I'm not a Perry fan. She's one of my least favorite companions. I just don't get into Perry. She has a couple moments in the story, like when the doctor's telling her to wheel that person out, and he's like, don't argue, just go. And then right when the Master and Rani are coming back in, she just kind of and stands there. I mean, I get she only has like a second to try to hide, but she just stands there. And I'm sitting here watching this and literally out loud going, you stupid. And then when they actually get free at the end, the doctor's like, push, and she pushes him, and he goes, wrong way, and he starts rolling down. I'm sitting there going, Perry! Don't know how I could have made that mistake. That's who Perry reminds me of. She's like an 80s version of Susan. Which, to be fair, that's probably part of the problem with Perry, and I think even Nicola has said that in interviews, that she's treated more like a stereotypical 60s, not an actual 60s companion, maybe Susan, but not most of the others, but a stereotypical 60s companion, where they're more damsel in distress, ask the doctor what's going on, that type, the not very helpful type. Mel has that same problem, to be honest. Maybe that's why the pendulum swung so hard the other way when we got Ace, and Ace has very good character development, possibly the best in classic Doctor Who, arguably the best. But with Perry and Mel, they're very two-dimensional, do-nothing, save-me doctor companions. The actual 60 companions, other than Susan, are better than that. Barbara's better than that. Vicky's better than that. Zoe's better than that. Maybe not Victoria. I'm not a fan of Victoria either. Polly's better than that. So, I'm not a big fan of Perry, and in this one, there are just those moments where she has me going. Also, the dress she's wearing in their first scene together when they're in the TARDIS doesn't seem to match the dress they're wearing on the location filming to me. Because I thought the dress she's wearing when they first show up in the episode looks more a pink or cream color. In the location shoot, it looks more a yellow. Like it doesn't quite match. Maybe that's just me and I wasn't paying attention at that first scene. But as soon as they stepped out of the TARDIS, I'm like, did that dress change colors? Also, that dress is not very well suited for what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, they were supposed to be going somewhere else. I get that. But I think I would have changed if I had seen the landscape. And that's not the first time this has happened in Doctor Who where they've ended up in the wrong spot and the companion just seems to think, screw it. But I think I would have changed in that suit. Doctor, give me just a minute. I'm going to pop in here and throw something more appropriate on. That's what I would have done. And at the cliffhanger, when she's trying to run after him while he's rolling down the hill, she's having to hold up her dress and try to run, and she can't because that outfit's not made for that. Not very practical. I enjoy the Rani's plan, though. One of the things I really like about this is it's occurred to me something I hadn't realized just from Time in the Rani, and that is that the Rani is a thinker, not necessarily a physical altercation person. And thinking about it now, that does make sense. It didn't really occur to me because she doesn't mind putting herself physically in a situation. Like, she's not like the man behind the curtain or anything, or the woman behind the curtain. She's not afraid to get out there. But she relies on her mind, her intelligence, her cunning to outwit and manipulate her opponent. She's not good in a physical fight. Like, she wouldn't make it as a pawn in an army, or as a front line soldier in an army. She's more like, the queen or the bishop. She's the thinker. She's the person who plans. And in that regard, she's really clever. But I think that's one of the reasons why the Master is able to get up over on her so easily, is because the Rani is good at manipulating people because she's smarter than people usually. That's why she's able to wrap all of these humans around her fingers. But the problem is when she runs into someone like the Master, who's just as intelligent as she is in different ways, and the Doctor, who's also just intelligent as her in different ways, she struggles a little more because the Master, while being intelligent, is also a fighter. He can do both. He can also get in physical altercations, sword fights, fist fights, gunplay. And that's why he's constantly swiping her. Like when she makes that joke with the little worm she uses to subdue people. Yeah, why don't you try one? He just takes the whole can out of her hand because she's being sarcastic. Yeah, take one. See what you think. So he takes the whole can from her and keeps it. And then she immediately does it again when she holds out the brain stuff, and he just swipes it from her and refuses to give it back. He keeps one-upping her because he has a physicality that she can't keep up with. Her trick to winning is outsmarting and being clever. She is a thinker, not a physical fighter. And I don't think I had ever quite realized that. It makes sense now. Same thing with the Tet Traps at the end of Time of the Rani. She can't physically stop them. She's not a fighter. And it never occurred to me because most of the time when you run into the thinkers, not fighters, they tend not to get involved physically, like not front line physically. Whereas she's not afraid to get out there. Like, even in Mark of the Rani, she's out there. In Time of the Rani, she's out there. But she's so clever and so smart, she doesn't think it'll come to fisticuffs. So that's an interesting realization to me that she's not good in a physical fight, but she's good in an intelligent fight. That's how she wins. And I never quite realized that. That's where the Master trumps her, is he can do both, even though they're smart in different ways. I like the fact that when he's talking to her, he's being complimentary without being submissively complimentary. Like, like a 13-year-old who sees a girl he likes and he just agrees with everything she says, and it's sad. He's not like that. He's not, he still flat out shows her that he's physically superior to her, but he's still complimentary. You almost get the feeling that he actually does perhaps have a respect for her intelligence. Maybe he's exaggerating a little bit, but what he's saying, he's genuinely sincere. He's using the carrot and the stick. He's not using one or the other. He's using the carrot and the stick on her. And I like that approach to where he's being complimentary without being submissive. That's really interesting. I really like the interplay between Anthony Ainley and the Rani here. And I like the fact that when she captures Colin, they recognize each other too. He recognizes her immediately as soon as he sees her. He's like, oh, you. I like that. I'm really, really enjoying this story. Like I said, I have a couple little nitpicks, but I really like this story. Like, I loved watching it. I'm probably going to watch part 2 as soon as I finish this video. I really enjoyed part 1. I liked the cliffhanger. I really liked the guy who rescued the Doctor when they were almost shoving him down the shaft the first time. The guy who fired the gun in the air, who's kind of the one who sent out the invitations. I like him. The actor playing him does a really good job. I liked him. And he's like, hey, you're lucky they were dumb. They didn't know it'd take me 2 minutes to reload. You, Mr. VIP. VIP indeed. I like that guy. The actor and the character. I like that. And I like the idea of what she's doing to take their brain, part of their brain fluid is causing the imbalance that changes their personality. Because I've caught on quick to that's what's happening is, their personalities have been altered and they act completely different. And I like the fact that it's an imbalance in their brain fluid that's causing that. So that's interesting. I always like that the Rani is a very sciencey Time Lord. It's not that she's a brilliant mind. She just has no morals, no scruples. She's willing to do whatever to further her research. She doesn't have a sense of right and wrong. And that fascinates me. It does. So I really like Mark of the Rani. I'm really enjoying this one. Season 22 is so underrated. So I'd like to know what you think of part 1 of Mark of the Rani. So let me know. Other things to do while I have you here. If you watch regularly and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. That helps me out. Currently trying to reach 800 subscribers. We're getting there. We're getting there. And it's free. Can't beat that. I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to support what I do, there is a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the Fifth Doctor. I appreciate their continued support, just as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me, that's down in the description below, as is a link to my Amazon wish list, which I update regularly. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.